You're watching World Insight, brought to you from Beijing. Welcome back to this program. More analysis now. Ever since the Georgia-Russia conflict broke out 2 months ago, their animosity has been in the headlines. Wednesday's international conference in Geneva focused on future security arrangements for Georgia's rebel republics, recognized as independent by Russia, and for the region as a whole. Behind it all is Russia's reassertion as a major world power.
Geneva, Switzerland. The country has a reputation for neutrality. On Wednesday, international mediators shuttled between Russian and Georgian delegations at talks on the two breakaway Georgian regions, South Ossetia and Abkhazia. Back on August the 7th, shortly before midnight, Georgian forces launched a sudden attack on the breakaway region of South Ossetia. The next day, Russia sent in troops, and its warplanes bombed Georgian targets in the region. On August 25th, the Russian parliament voted unanimously to ask the president to recognize the independence of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. The Geneva talks were to provide a forum for the two sides to work out how to assist thousands of displaced people faced with the onset of winter and begin the overall process of resolving the conflict. But Georgia and Russia failed to meet face to face.
Our position on this account is clear and has not changed. Any drawing up of agreements concerning the guarantee of security is impossible without the participation of Abkhazia and South Ossetia.
Analysts point out that the underlying reasons started long before and aren't likely to go away.
Whatever
the outcome is, for Russia, the stance of recognizing the independence of South Ossetia will never change. Russia wants to maintain its strength in the region, as well as its geopolitical considerations.
The strategic importance of Georgia and its pro-West position suggests the matter isn't simply between the two countries. The conflict isn't and never has been just about Georgia. It's about the reassertion of Russia as a world power. The country has suffered for years over the collapse of the Soviet Union. The eastward march of NATO has swallowed up former members of the Warsaw Pact, Russia's traditional strategic space. Back in July, the U.S. and the Czech Republic signed an initial agreement to begin basing part of a U.S. missile shield in the former Soviet satellite.
After the Cold War, the U.S. has done a lot to exert influence and take control on former Soviet soil. It's the national strategy of the U.S. and the West as a whole. It collided with the national interests of Russia. The West has been trying to occupy Russia's strategic space with the eastward march of NATO. So there's always a big confrontation between Russia and the West. But when the national economy was in decline, Russia didn't show much dissatisfaction about this.
With the recovery of the economy in recent years, Moscow begins to show its strength. A week ago Saturday, Russia test-launched a long-range Topol missile in the Kamchatka Peninsula. President Dmitry Medvedev oversaw the intercontinental missile launch from Russia's northern forests and soar toward a target thousands of kilometers away. He put everyone on notice that Russia would strengthen its military.
We will continue to commission new types of weapons, but we will also continue testing the ones we currently have. Their effectiveness has been proved by time. Our shield is fine. Thank you for your service.
The launch was part of the so-called Stability 2008 exercise, conducted with Belarus from September 22nd to October 21st. Medvedev's predecessor, Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, raised defense spending during his 8-year presidency to revive Russia's armed forces, which had been drained in the 1990s by corruption, low pay, and a lack of funding. And Russia is reaching far beyond the neighborhood. On September 22nd, the naval squadron left the northern fleet base of Severomorsk, heading for the Caribbean. The nuclear-powered cruiser Peter the Great and support vessels are to conduct joint maneuvers with the Venezuelan Navy during the 17,000-mile deployment. It'll be the biggest display of Russian military power in the Western Hemisphere since the Cold War.
第一个说明了俄罗斯的强势崛起。
Two reasons lie behind Russia's tough stance. First, Russia has regained its confidence through its economic and military development in recent years. We can see a powerful state is back on the international political stage now. And secondly, the West does not consider Russia's objection in issues like the expansion of NATO and missile defense systems. So Russia took some extreme steps to counter the West's engagement in the region, to show it's powerful in its traditional strategic territory.
Russian confidence has also been given a boost from its economic strength, thanks to its energy advantage. On October 7th, Iceland's central bank said it was seeking a €4 billion loan from Russia to try to save the country's economy from collapse. NATO member Iceland is also considering turning to the IMF for financial aid. But Russia's willingness has raised questions about what price it might extract. Now, the big challenge for the West is how to respond to Russia's action without hurting its own interests, and especially for those depending on Russia for their energy supplies. Considering Moscow's tough stance, some critics have begun to talk about a new Cold War era. But Feng Yujun says that would be an oversimplification.
There's a vacuum in today's international order. There's a lack of a leader factor in global governance. The current situation in international society becomes more complicated and difficult to control. In a multipolar world, it's hard to find a true single opponent. So for Russia, all actions are not meant as confrontations with the U.S. Russia just wants to show it's powerful enough to maintain its geopolitical benefit and economic benefits.
The port of Tripoli, Libya. On Tuesday, the 3 Russian warships stopped over for fuel and supplies. The fleet then continued on to its rendezvous with the Venezuelan Navy in the Caribbean.
Well, for years now, Western powers have been trying various means to draw Russia into their framework. On the Russian side, while the EU may be dependent on its energy, it's also Moscow's biggest customer. The complex relations of all these major powers means there are no easy answers in today's world politics.